everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of our Formula One podcast. Today, we're diving into an explainer on one of the most massive, high-stakes overhauls we've ever seen in modern motorsport, Red Bull Racing in 2026. They're taking on the ultimate engine gamble, right? Stepping away from the safety net of proven formulas to forge their very own path. Let's break down exactly what's happening behind closed doors at Milton Keynes. To really grasp the sheer scale and, frankly, the tension of this project, you just have to look at Christian Horner's own words. He called it the biggest challenge they've taken on in the last 21 years. And he's absolutely right. For over 2 decades, Red Bull has been this aerodynamic powerhouse, but they've always relied on external partners for the actual heartbeat of the car. Now, for 2026, they are building a power unit totally from the ground up. Horner himself admits they just don't have that deep historical knowledge that legacy builders like Ferrari or Mercedes do. So they're building a whole new organization, new infrastructure, and a brand new power unit they're calling the DM01, named in honor of their late founder, Dietrich Mateschitz. This isn't just a tech update. It's practically an existential challenge for the whole team. Okay, let's dive into this, because the contrast here is honestly staggering. In the past, Red Bull relied on established manufacturers. They just had immense, dominant success with Honda as an engine supplier. But with Honda moving to an exclusive works partnership with Aston Martin for 2026, Red Bull made the massive call to just stop being a customer. Instead, they've partnered up with the American automotive giant Ford to build the DMO1 entirely in-house under the Red Bull Ford Powertrains banner. And wow, this is a monumental risk. They're completely abandoning the safety net of those established F1 engine manufacturers to take absolute, uncompromising control over their own destiny. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the 2026 regulations are causing such a massive headache and, well, a massive opportunity for the entire grid. The new rules dictate a really drastic shift in how these cars actually generate speed. We're moving from a system where the internal combustion engine produced about 80% of the power to a roughly 50-50 split between combustion and electric. The MGUK, that's the motor generator unit harnessing kinetic energy, has to jump from putting out 160 horsepower to a massive 475 horsepower. That is wild. It means energy management and deployment are now literally the central elements of performance. Add in the new mandate to use 100% synthetic, sustainable fuels, and they are essentially looking at a totally blank canvas for engineering. Section 1. A new era lineup. Let's meet the drivers taking on this challenge in 2026. Now, what's really interesting about this matchup is the extreme juxtaposition in the garage. All this groundbreaking tech needs the right drivers to actually tame it. On one side, you've got Max Verstappen, a 4-time world champ, 71 wins, arguably the absolute most complete operator on the grid today. On the other side, stepping up to replace Yuki Tsunoda, who shifted to a reserve role, we have Ishaq Hadjar. He's a 21-year-old rookie who just secured his maiden podium last year with the sister team, Racing Bulls. Red Bull is placing a huge amount of trust in Hadjar's raw, hungry speed to complement Verstappen's championship pedigree, especially in a year where car feedback is going to be more critical than ever. Section 2. Radical design, early struggles. Because, as we know, aggressive ambition doesn't always translate immediately to the stopwatch. Under technical director Pierre Wache, Red Bull delivered the RB22. This is a chassis that pushes the 2026 regulations to their absolute breaking point. The aerodynamics are just extreme. They've positioned the crash structures super prominently atop the side pods, actually extending well beyond the bodywork profile. And this radical choice let them keep the side pods incredibly compact, maximizing that crucial airflow to the rear of the car to generate downforce. They've also brought in high-rake diffuser slots, carving wide apertures into the vertical sidewalls. It is classic Red Bull, right? Finding these little performance gains where everyone else just sees regulatory constraints. But radical designs definitely come with radical growing pains. Let's look at how this builds, because those radical designs initially resulted in a complete nightmare on track. At the Australian Grand Prix, Verstappen uncharacteristically crashed out in Q1. The car just snapped on him, while Hadjar had to retire with an engine issue on lap 11. Then, in China, Verstappen was super vocal on the radio with his frustrations before suffering a gearbox DNF, though Hadjar managed to scrape a P8. By the Japanese Grand Prix, Verstappen could only manage P8 with Hadjar in P12. So after 3 rounds, the reigning Constructors' champions were sitting in a shocking 6th place in the standings with a measly 16 points. They were literally trailing behind teams like Haas and Alpine. Section 3. Red Bull's Tech Secrets. Let's look at how they engineered this comeback. So how exactly do you dig yourself out of a hole like that when you're building an engine from scratch and your chassis is wildly unpredictable? Well, you peel back the curtain on the Milton Keynes factory. Their first massive secret weapon here is artificial intelligence and virtual assembly. By using Oracle Cloud infrastructure, Red Bull powertrains can simulate over 6,000 individual components of the new power unit. I mean, before a single piece of metal is even cut, they can see exactly how all these parts interact. And remember that 100% sustainable fuel requirement we talked about? They're using incredibly advanced computational fluid dynamics, or CFD, to simulate the exact shape of the fuel as it flows out of an injector nozzle to optimize internal combustion. The level of digital precision is just astonishing. But of course, when you do need physical parts, speed is literally everything. In Formula One, if you're waiting weeks for a prototype, you've already lost the development race. And this is where Ford's manufacturing expertise fundamentally changed the game for them. By leveraging Ford's state-of-the-art 3D printing technology, the team slashed the time it takes to manufacture complex prototype parts from 16 days down to a staggering 5 days. To put that into perspective, as Ford's powertrain chief engineer pointed out, when you can refine your designs 3 times faster than before, you aren't just engineering anymore, you are actively hunting the competition. And the collaboration actually gets even deeper once you look at the simulator. Ford and Red Bull simulation engineers developed this unique, custom controls model that runs an unbelievable 1,000 times faster than real time. This is crazy. It allowed Verstappen and Hodger to actually feel the engine's behavior, calibrate the battery's energy deployment, and give critical feedback on drivability before the physical engine hardware even existed. They essentially drove the future of the car in the digital realm, solving that tricky 50-50 electric combustion puzzle long before the car ever hit the track. Section 4. Turning the corner. The Miami GP Resurgence. Now, all that relentless behind-the-scenes engineering and rapid prototyping had to eventually translate to actual lap time, right? And the first real sign that Red Bull had solved their puzzle didn't even come from their own garage. It came from their fiercest rivals. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff sent absolute shockwaves through the paddock when he looked at the GPS data and admitted the car and the engine are the benchmark at the moment. Wolff noted that Red Bull had figured out the energy deployment so perfectly that they were putting way more energy down the streets than anyone else. He actually quantified it as a 1 second per lap advantage over several consecutive laps just in energy deployment alone. Suddenly, the engine they built entirely from scratch was the terror of the grid. And the on-track results in Miami finally validated all that data, under the leadership of CEO and team principal Laurent Mekies. The resurgence was absolutely spectacular. Verstappen grabbed P5 in the sprint race, proving that the race pace was really returning. Then in Grand Prix qualifying, he secured a front-row lockout right alongside Mercedes' Kimi Antonelli, missing pole by less than 0.2 of a second. And even though a super dramatic lap 1 spin forced Verstappen into this alternate strategy, boxing on lap 6 for hard tires, he still carved his way all the way through the field to secure P5 in the actual race. Mekies made a great point, noting that slicing their qualifying deficit from over a second in China down to just 0.2 in Miami was a massive indication of their progress. The RB22 had finally unlocked its true pace. So, the crucial point is this. Red Bull took the biggest gamble in their history, totally abandoning proven suppliers to build a highly complex 2026 power unit entirely from scratch with Ford. They survived a disastrous, really unreliable start to the season by leaning heavily into rapid prototyping and cutting-edge AI simulation. Now, with the new benchmark engine finally finding its rhythm and Max Verstappen feeling comfortable in the cockpit again, has the rest of the grid already run out of time to stop them? It's going to be a fascinating development race to watch for sure. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this helped decode all those massive shifts happening over at Milton Keynes, and I'll catch you in the next one.